Thank you everyone for joining us today, and welcome to our Identity Theft Protect and Prevent webinar in partnership with the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. Identity theft is one of the fastest growing crimes in the US, but the more you know, the better you can protect yourself. Today, you'll learn how to recognize and help prevent identity theft, understand tools like fraud alerts and security freezes, and get tips on recovering if your information is compromised. We're pleased to have Jeff Kersten with us today. Jeff is an outreach specialist with DATCP's Bureau of Consumer Protection. Jeff brings a wealth of experience as a former police officer and consumer protection investigator, and now travels across Wisconsin educating the public, businesses, and law enforcement about scams, fraud prevention, privacy, and data security. The session is being recorded, so if you miss anything, you can watch it later. I'll send that out. And then there'll be time for questions at the end. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this afternoon. Thanks everybody for joining me. So, yes, my name is Jeff. I work for the State of Wisconsin Bureau of Consumer Protection, and we're here to talk about identity theft. As Rebecca said, it's the fastest growing crime in the United States. I think it has been the fastest growing crime in the US since I've been doing this for the state, which is going on 8 years now. And there's a new victim every 2 seconds. And unfortunately, you can do everything right, and your information can still fall into the wrong hands, and people can do bad things with it. So we're going to go over some of that stuff today. Bear with me. The first half of the presentation is all the scary stuff of how they get our info and all the things that they can do with it. But let's kind of get through that, and then we'll talk about some things that you can do yet today to protect yourself from this moving forward. So I've got a little presentation here for everybody. Let me see if I can share here quick. Make sure I share the correct screen. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yep, looks good.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So you heard about my background in law enforcement. Identity theft is a felony in Wisconsin. So all these things that we're going to talk about today, if somebody does this to you, that's a crime. But that's law enforcement's job, is to go after the bad guys. And we certainly want to report it to law enforcement and give them a chance to investigate the crime. But whether or not law enforcement catches the individual, the victim still has that aftermath to deal with. And that's where we kind of come into play. We help people recover from this sort of thing. So victims can file a complaint with us, and we'll mediate it between the bank and the business and the financial institution where, potentially these fraudulent accounts have been opened up, and we'll work to close that stuff down to help you get that off your credit report and thus, recover your identity. So first, let's just kind of talk about what is identity theft. It is the criminal use of your personal information to obtain money, goods, and services. We know they're after our money, all the scam phone calls we get, but some of those scams, they trick us into verifying our personal information. And if they get their hands on the right info, they can do things with it. So number one here on the list, credit card fraud. Most of us have been through this at some point or another.
Yep.
Either we spot the fraudulent charge on the credit card statement, or the credit card company spots it for us, and they immediately cancel the card, issue a new card in the mail. Hopefully you're not out of town when this happens. And when you get the new card, you just got to remember to reset up auto bill pay with whatever you had linked to that card, so you don't fall behind on something else. But it's a fairly easy form of identity theft to recover from, and very little or no financial loss during the recovery process. That is the most common form. But identity theft is so much more than that. These criminals, they'll open up different credit cards in our name that we don't even know about, and go on, shopping sprees, and then all of a sudden bill collectors are calling us later. They'll open up different personal loans, just try to grab that money and, with no intention of paying it back. Maybe they try to open up bank accounts in our name and deposit fraudulent checks and, pull that money out before the bank or the credit union spots it. And then again, the moral of the story with all of this is just leaving the victim with the aftermath. They'll try to steal our taxes or tax returns in our name. We'll talk more about that later. They might go to the phone store. Often, today's the newest phone that comes out on the market. You'll see somebody giving it out for free. Well, it's not for free. It's as long as you sign a contract to pay your bill for the next 30 months, they'll hand you the phone. And so that's a line of credit. And, all of these are different types of identity theft. What information do they want? What do they need in order to steal our identities? It doesn't take much, really. It's just our name, date of birth, and social security number. Once they have that information, they can open up lines of credit. Just think about the last time you were out shopping at some big box store or really any store nowadays. They all seem to want us to sign up for a credit card. So many different places have their own credit cards nowadays. And, if you say yes to the cashier that you want to sign up for the card today, all they do is just turn that little keypad around to face you. And all you have to do is plug in
Yep.
your social security number, your date of birth, and your average annual income. And within seconds, a receipt prints off on the register and it's got a barcode on it with a credit limit at the bottom. And if you do that, you could literally go on a shopping spree that day. Well, I mean, if you do that with your own info, obviously you're responsible for the bill. But if a criminal does that, they go on the shopping spree. You don't even know about it. And now, 6, 7, 8, 9 months later, you're getting phone calls from a bill collector wondering why you haven't paid this $5,000, credit card bill. And it makes no sense to you. You don't even think you have a credit card from that store, and you hang up on them. You think it's a scam phone call. Well, it might not be a scam phone call. That could be the first indicator that you're the victim of identity theft when the bill collectors start calling or when the credit cards start showing up in the mail. The other unique thing about name, date of birth, and social security number is that once the criminals have it, they kind of always have it. That information really never changes. Our whole lives, we've had the same name, maybe a last name change here or there, but pretty consistent. Our whole lives, we've had the same social security number, and it never changes. Even if we were to reach out to Social Security and let them know that your info's in the wrong hands and it's been compromised, they won't give you a new number. So once that info is in the wrong hands, you're always going to be at a higher risk of having your identity stolen. And of course, our date of birth never changes. It's been the same date of birth since we were born, and it's the one that that obviously never changes. So again, once the criminals have it, you're always going to be at a higher risk of having your identity stolen. Now, don't get me wrong, they want all this other stuff on the screen as well. If they can figure out your address and email address and your passport number and your ID and all that, the more info they have that they can tie back to your name, the bigger picture of your identity that gives them. That makes it easier for them to, call up a bank or credit union or some other business and, impersonate you and hopefully be able to answer those, types of questions correctly. Who can be victimized? Everybody. Our youngest citizens to our oldest seniors, everybody in between. Basically, if you have a name, a date of birth, and a social security number, you can have your identity stolen. And, you can see that, in the age group of, 20 to 50 is, most likely when it's going to happen, probably because that's when we're out there and we're using our credit more and we're signing up for stuff and people are buying and selling homes and applying for things, but it can honestly happen to all of us. So how does it happen? How do they even get our info in the first place? Lots of different ways. Sometimes the criminals will steal mail They're looking for that red flag on the mailbox. Hopefully somebody's mailing something out. Maybe they're paying a bill or sending out a birthday or a holiday card. There might be a personal check inside that one of those envelopes or a bill statement. And, those documents have a lot of information on them. Uh, Personal checks. I don't know if you still fill out personal checks to pay some of your bills or not, but check washing is still around. If a criminal is able to intercept your personal check, there's a simple household chemical solution where they can wash the ink off of a check. And the criminals will, well, the smart criminals will leave your signature because obviously that's yours. And the really smart criminals will leave the dollar amount you filled the check out for. They won't change that. And they'll just change who it's paid out to. So even if you check your bank statement later, it looks like check number whatever got cashed and you think you paid that bill, but you have no idea that a criminal might have intercepted it and cashed it instead. So here's a very simple thing that you can do to protect yourself from check washing is fill out your checks with a gel ink pen.
Hmm.
Gel ink is a different type of ink and cannot be washed off with those chemicals I talked about earlier. So there's an easy thing that we can do. They'll dig through trash, looking for documents that somebody might have threw away. We'll talk here about shredding things before we throw them away as a way to protect ourselves. They might steal our wallets or purses. You don't need me, telling you why that would be a bad day to have your wallet or purse stolen for obvious reasons. But from the standpoint of identity theft, I bet most everybody right now has a driver's license or ID card on them. Well, that's got your name and date of birth. If you also happen to carry around your social security card in your wallet or purse, well, then that gives them everything that they need to try to open up a line of credit in your name. So do yourself a favor and leave the social security card at home locked up in a safe, so that the criminal doesn't get both parts of that puzzle just by stealing a wallet or a purse. And then most of us carry around these phones, and there's a lot of information on our phones nowadays. We for some reason still call them phones, but really we just carry computers around in our pockets. And a phone is just one thing it does. I mean, it also has access to our email and our text messaging, and we have apps on there for online shopping and digital wallets that might have payment card information in there and password managers and I mean, just a treasure trove of information for an identity thief. So, whatever type of phone you have, whatever brand phone, make sure you have the security set up on that phone. The fingerprint, the facial recognition, the code, the pattern, have something that in order to open up your phone, you have to do that thing every time. I know it's a pain to have a phone that's locked and not just open, but you don't want someone else to just be able to click a button, swipe up on the screen, and have access to all of that information I just talked about. Another thing you need to look out for are skimming devices at gas pumps and ATMs. It can happen at ATMs, but mainly I'm going to talk about gas pumps. So these are devices that a criminal will put on a gas pump. They're both external and internal. Sometimes they're really hard to detect. The older advice for the external devices was, kind of give the credit card reader a wiggle before you pay for your gas. And, if it's loose or falls off or looks wrong, don't use the pump that day. And that's still good advice, but now they can put these skimmers on the inside. Sometimes you don't even know that they're there. It's really hard to tell. But, we got to live our lives and we're driving around and we're pumping gas and, we got to pay for it. And so what's the best way to pay? So what these skimmers do is they're trying to read the magnetic stripe on the back of your payment card. And your account number is embedded in that magnetic strip and it's not encrypted. Just a cheap skimmer can read the account number from that mag stripe. So Uh, I like to think of protect the mag stripe on the back of whatever card you're going to use to pay. So you see my little chart here, best ways to pay. I mean, honestly, from the standpoint of identity theft, it's kind of hard to steal my identity if I pay with cash today. So I've got cash at the top of the list. But if you want to use a card, I think the next best way to pay would be the tap and pay. So some of our cards have that built right into the card where you can just hold it up to the little gray box and you wait till you get the four green lights, and that is a way to pay where you're not exposing your account number during that transaction. So
Oh,
perfect.
really?
I can pay for my stuff and not expose my account number. Now, if your card doesn't have that feature, it kind of you can look at your cards and tell it'll have almost like that little Wi-Fi symbol. Um, if it doesn't have that, another option is you can put your card into a digital wallet on your phone, and your phone has that same technology it's called NFC. It's near field communication. And then you can use your phone to do the tap and pay. And I know that sounds scary that, I'm going to put a credit card inside my phone and then, this is going to get hacked, but it's actually very, very secure to put cards into a digital wallet on a device. But if you don't have the tap and pay feature, I think the next best way to pay would be go inside where you use the chip on the edge of your card. So that little chip that we've all gotten used to using over the last couple of years, when you think about it, when you put it in the bottom of the machine, well, you're only inserting, what, about an inch and a half of the card. Well, I'm not I didn't have, there's no way something read the mag stripe on the back of my card. And your chip is also another way to pay where your account number is encrypted during the transaction. So those are all really good ways to pay. At the bottom of the list is swiping a card. Even inside, if you swipe a card or if you pay at the gas pump, even if at the gas pump, you're using the chip, but you still have to push your card all the way into the machine. You still potentially ran that mag stripe past one of these skimmers. So that's at the bottom of the list. Now, I get it, lots of us, we're going to pay at the gas pump, and we got to figure out what card we're going to use to pay. I highly suggest using a credit card if you're going to pay at the gas pump. A credit card offers a lot of protection. The Fair Credit Reporting Act basically says that if someone just gets a hold of your credit card number and then makes a fraudulent purchase, you have 60 days from the date of your last paper statement to notice that charge, report it to the credit card company, and not be held financially responsible. That's a long time. That's 2 full billing cycles, 2 months worth. Plenty of time to notice, hey, wait a minute, that charge isn't mine. And, that's, of course, where they're going to cancel the card. You got to wait for the new one to show up in the mail. But during that whole recovery process, you didn't lose any money. That's with a credit card. Now let's talk about debit cards. This is your money, right? This is the debit card. That's just the checking account. And here's where it gets tricky. If a criminal gets a hold of your debit card number and makes a fraudulent purchase, if that purchase is able to slip through and either you don't notice it or the bank or the credit union doesn't notice it, now there's money missing from your account, and I just encourage everybody, have a conversation with the credit union or, I don't know what Madison Credit Union's policy is or anywhere else that you might bank, but, it can vary from, institution to institution of how much time you have to report this, where the credit union is going to reimburse that loss. But here's the thing, even if you notice it in time and you report it to the credit union right away, you still might be missing money from the account, and it takes time for those reimbursements to come through. What if the criminal cleans out your checking account and tomorrow, the mortgage is due and rent is due and the car payment and you need gas, food, groceries, and all of a sudden the money is gone. Be very careful with your debit cards. Have a conversation with the credit union. There's lots of really good strategies out there of, sometimes people open up second checking accounts and you only keep X number of dollars in that account, that has the card attached to it, and you keep the other money over in a savings account that doesn't have a debit card attached to it. There's a lot of good strategies. The banks and credit unions are really good at keeping our money safe, and they know how to do all that. So you have questions, I would encourage you to reach out to the credit union. Another way that they get our personal information, all those scams, that we get on our phones. Of course, some of them are after our money, but some of them trick you into verifying that personal info and social security number and date of birth over the phone. And, if a criminal is able to, trick us into saying that info over the phone, then they have, they have it and they can try to steal our identities. I have a whole separate scam presentation. It's about an hour long, just goes in on all the different email and text message and phone call type scams that we're faced with, all the different categories that you see on the screen. And if the shameless plug coming up, if the credit union ever wants to have me back for that presentation, I'd be happy to do that one as well. Data breaches. Most of us have received one of these types of letters over the years, right? Your information was involved in a data breach. We'll get some letter from a company, and
Oh, yeah.
it'll let us know that that information was,
Compromised.
compromised. That's a good word, and in the hands of the bad guys. And if you ever get one of these letters, you're 3 times more likely in the next 12 months to have your identity stolen. So you want to be extra vigilant. Now, a lot of times the kind of the industry standard with many of these letters is they'll offer 1 year of free credit monitoring. And it's not bad coverage, but the smart criminals will know that, well, if the data breach involved your name and date of birth and SS number, that a year from now, that information is still valid. So a lot of them will just sit on some of these data breaches for a couple of years, wait for people to kind of lower their guard and not have those fraud alerts and credit monitoring services, active, and then they'll try to steal the identity. So, yeah, if you ever get one of these letters, be extra vigilant. Now, the problem with data breaches is that, we didn't do anything wrong, right? A lot of these places, they have our info, and we're just at the mercy of their IT departments that hopefully they keep the computers up to date and locked down and safe. And when they don't, and the criminals are able to break in, well, that's when we get notified that our info's out there. Now we can help ourselves out a little bit. We don't have to sign up for, everything. Just the more often you sign up for things, the more often you create a new username and password and hand out your information to another entity or private business. Well, that's just more places that we're relying to keep their computers secure. So sometimes it's worth it to just say no and just not sign up for stuff to try to, help prevent being part of a future data breach. Social networking. Many of us are on sites like this. Great way to stay in touch with family and friends, but dare I say, do we sometimes overshare on social media? And the criminals are out there. They're on social media. They're looking at posts and they're looking for info. And they're looking for the stuff you see on the screen. Sometimes inadvertently we slip out, the answers to these questions. Well, a lot of times these are the answers to your security questions. When you call the bank or the credit union nowadays, it's no longer mother's maiden name. That's not what they want to know. Now we have password questions set up. And we certainly don't want to hand out the answers to the criminals so that they can try to impersonate us. Something else you need to look out for on social media is something called an imposter account. So there's really nothing that stops a criminal from creating one of these imposter accounts. So let's say you're on social media, you pick the platform, it doesn't really matter. And say, I'm on that same platform and let's just pretend I'm the bad guy. We're not friends with each other, so I really can't see, your posts. I can't see a whole lot of information about you, but the criminal doesn't need to see that. All they need to see is your profile picture and your name. All they do is screenshot your profile picture and then they create a brand new account and they just use your name. Now they have control of an account that looks just like yours, but it's a separate account. Now, if they can see who you're friends with on social media, then they might send out messages to all of your friends and it looks like it comes from you. Or maybe you've been on the receiving end of these messages and there's, it'll say something like, "Oh, I didn't know you were on YouTube," and there'll be a YouTube link and they want somebody to click on that link. Or there's always a link or a phone number that they want somebody to click on or call. So here's one of the best things you can do to protect yourself from imposter accounts is set your friends list to private. If a criminal creates an imposter account and tries to impersonate you, well, if they can't even see who you're friends with, who are they going to send all those fake messages to? Seems to be one of the better strategies to cut down on this type of activity. And then watch out for investing offers online. There's a lot of too good to be true offers out there floating around on social media. Probably social media is not the best place to get investing advice. All right, how do we protect ourselves from all this stuff? With our phones, I already mentioned, make sure your phone is locked, set up the fingerprint, the facial recognition, whatever type of code or pattern so that, someone else can't access all of that information. Make sure that all of your devices are up to date. Security updates are almost always included in system updates. I've mentioned it a couple times of don't click links in messages or text messages or emails unless you know for sure who sent that to you. That could be a malicious link, and if you click on it or open it up, it could compromise your device. And then with your phones, make sure you only install apps from the major app stores. So if you have an iPhone, you can only go to the App Store. But if you have an Android phone, I mean, those are basically just little mini laptops, and you can download apps right from websites. And I would say be very careful doing that. I would, even on an Android, I would stick to the major app stores like Google Play or the Samsung Galaxy Store, where at least those apps are vetted out a little bit to make sure that they are legitimate. A lot of the same stuff with our computers. Make sure that their computer's updated. You can enable something called auto update, or so it'll just do it automatically for you. Again, don't click those links and emails or pop-up messages. Make sure that your computer has an antivirus software on it that includes anti-pop-up and firewall protection. And if you don't really know what that type of stuff is, I would suggest talking with maybe a family member or a friend that is very computer savvy, or maybe even going to a computer store to make sure that your device is properly protected. And then on all of our devices, if we're hooked up to Wi-Fi, we want to make sure that we're on secure Wi-Fi. And this is a little bit more of a complicated answer of what is secure Wi-Fi, but here's the way I like to remember it. If I'm out and about and I'm hooked up to Wi-Fi and I'm not sure that it's secure or not, well, that's not the time to be doing online shopping or online banking if I'm not sure I'm on a secure connection. So if you're not sure, wait till you're at home where you are on your own secure connection in order to do online shopping or online banking. If you're out and about, let's say with your phone, and you need to check the online banking, or you need to maybe buy something quick so that it's here by the weekend, I would suggest turning the Wi-Fi off on your phone and use your phone's data connection. That's actually that 4 or 5G connection. That's actually more secure than Wi-Fi. Here's a whole list of things that we can do to protect ourselves. So, I mentioned earlier shredding things before we throw it away. If you don't have a shredder, they're fairly inexpensive. Or I looked it up before we started today. It looks like the Madison Credit Union hosted a shredding event, I think just back in April. Rebecca, is there
Yeah.
one coming up?
Yeah, we do one every spring. So
Every
it's not a
spring.
big one. And so,
Okay.
but you can bring, I mean, big bags, 3 big bags of shreddable documents. So save them in a secure place and do that. We'll bring them in and it's for free. So
Wonderful. Yeah, and then it all just gets mixed up in the big industrial shredder, and
yeah,
there's no way that
yeah,
sounds pretty secure to me.
yeah. And we also do for myself at home, we have a little um a, like a stove, like a solo stove. And so
Oh,
my
sure.
bank statements will be my kindling to get it started.
There you go. That's a good idea. Um, Yeah, if you want to buy your own shredder, I would suggest getting one that says micro cut on the outside of the box. That chops up the paper into the tiniest little, like smaller than a grain of rice. And there's really no way to put that puzzle back together. That's the most secure. I mentioned how they might steal our mail and intercept personal checks and that sort of thing. So the best advice is take the important stuff right to the post office. I suggest taking it right inside the post office and dropping it in the box. Um, I remember back to my days in law enforcement, the criminals would take old license plates and wrap duct tape inside out so the sticky side was out, and they would put them down inside those blue bins and jiggle them around and go fishing and see how many letters they could get to stick to the license plate. And I know some of the mailboxes have those anti-theft devices, but some of that can still leak out. But if you take it inside the post office, that'll be the best chance of getting it to where it needs to go. With all of your online accounts, I suggest signing up for saying yes to something called two-factor or multi-factor authentication. So this is an extra layer of protection when you log into an online account. I'm sure you're already familiar with it. You know, sometimes when you put your username and password in, you get this email or text message that has a 6-digit code, and that code's only good for like 10 or 15 minutes. And you have to put the code in to complete the login. So the idea is that, a criminal on the other side of the world, well, they might have figured out your username and password, but that criminal probably doesn't also have access to your phone to see your text messaging. And if they don't get that, both parts of the equation, they can't log into your phone. Plus, I like it because if I'm sitting here right now talking with you and all of a sudden my phone dings and here's my code to complete my login and I'm not currently trying to log into something, it kind of gives me real-time notification that uh-oh, my password's been compromised, somebody figured it out, and I know to go change that password right away. If you don't have this turned on and someone figures out your username and password and breaks into one of your accounts, usually the first thing they do is they turn this on and link your login credentials to a different phone number or different email address that you don't have access to, thus preventing you from recovering access to your own account. So, highly recommend that you say yes to this. You can sign up for something called e-Notify from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. This is just a easy free thing that you can do. You get an email or a text, your choice, whenever there's a transaction on your driving DMV record. So let's say you go to the DMV and you renew your license plates or get a new ID card or whatever you do. Well, you get an email or a text that that transaction went through. Wonderful. But what if you were sitting here right now and all of a sudden you get an email or a text that somebody just went to the DMV and changed your address or printed off a duplicate ID card in your name and you're sitting right here? You didn't just go do that. Kind of again, you get like real-time notification that somebody's up to no good. You can also sign up for something called informed delivery from the post office. Again, this is all free. The post office now, since about 2018, has offered this service. If you sign up for it, every morning you get an email. So I get mine at about 7:30 in the morning. Excuse me. If I open it up and I download the photos, I get to see actual pictures of the pieces of mail that are going to show up to my house today. And I can tell you right now at 1:36 in the afternoon, my mail probably hasn't even been delivered. I usually don't get my mail until much later in the day. So, but right away in the morning, I can see what I'm supposed to be getting. Well, what if I'm getting something really important? I know to get it out of the mailbox right away. What if I go check my mail and that item is not there? Did the postal carrier lose it? Did they give it to the wrong house? Did somebody steal my mail? But at least I know what I was supposed to get, so I can follow up and make sure that, we track down that package. It's actually come in handy for me over the last few years. Every once in a while, there'll be, something won't show up and, but I know what I was supposed to get, and I'll follow up with the post office to make sure, that package doesn't get lost. I mentioned earlier they'll try to steal a tax return in your name. So tax identity theft is a real thing. And just recently, just within the last couple years, the IRS and the state of Wisconsin Department of Revenue both offer something to protect against this. It's called an identity protection PIN number. So think of it as like multi-factor authentication for your taxes. So here's how it works. If you sign up for this, and you can do this right at irs.gov, next, it's about December, the IRS is going to send a paper letter to your house. And inside that paper envelope is a 6-digit code. And next year, when you file your taxes, there's a spot on your taxes for this code to go. And this works for everything. It works, I mean, if you file with paper, electronic, if you use a tax service, no problem. Just give them the code. They know right where it goes on your paperwork. So here's the idea. Somewhere out there in the world, they might know your name and date of birth and SS number, and they'll create, fake W-2s, and they'll try to file fake tax return in your name and just steal money. But they don't have that code that was mailed to your house. So when the IRS receives that tax filing, it doesn't have your code on it. And right away, they know that would be fraudulent and they can start looking into it. And when they receive your tax documents, well, you've got the code on them, then they know it actually came from you. If you don't have this and someone tries to do this, the IRS is going to receive 2 tax filings in your name. And they don't know which one's real and which one's fake. So what they do is the whole account gets frozen. It takes them about 9 to 12 months to do their investigation. It's an absolute mess. And after you've gone through this, the IRS is actually going to make you sign up for the identity protection PIN number. So everybody I've talked to that's gone through this, they all tell me, I wish I could go back in time and just sign up for that thing ahead of time. It would have saved so much headache. So, still got plenty of time before next tax season to sign up for this. And then passwords. Feel free to chime in. How does everybody keep track of all your different passwords?
I write them in a book.
Write them in a book? Okay, there you go. I've got Notebook up on the screen.
No. Oh,
I'm sorry, say that again.
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
How many passwords does everybody have?
One.
Yeah, I use the same password a lot.
Okay. So you know what's coming. I'm about to tell you that's not recommended. If you use the same password for multiple accounts, if a criminal figures that out, well, they're going to just start trying that password as many places as they think it might work. The more places it works, the more damage they can do. But, sometimes it's embarrassing to admit how many accounts we have. And, how do you remember different passwords for all of your accounts? So the 2 things that you see here on the screen, these are what I would recommend. Write them down in a notebook. It allows you to have a different username and password for every account. Well, your username might be the same. Often that's, like an email address, but it allows you to have a different password for all of those accounts. And you don't have to really remember them, and when you're getting ready to log into something, you just open up the notebook and you go to the right page and you look it up and you see what the password is and you type it in correctly and you're good to go. That works for a lot of people, and it's very secure. I mean, can someone figure out where you live and burglarize your house and steal your notebook? Sure, but I mean, what's the chances of that? That's pretty secure. Another option is to use something called a password manager. So a password manager, these are some of them, sometimes these things are built into our devices nowadays, and there's also third-party, aftermarket managers out there. This is what the FBI recommends that we use is a password manager. So here's how it works. A password manager will do all of the work for you. It will create, organize, store, and automatically fill in the right password for you when you're getting ready to log into something. But it won't do it until it verifies that it's actually you using the device. And it'll ask you for your master password. So in essence, all you have to remember is one good, strong master password, and then the manager will do all the rest of the work for you. And two different strategies. Now, two things about a password manager. What I'm not talking about, I'm not suggesting that you tell a web browser to remember your passwords. You never want to tell Google Chrome or Firefox or Edge or Safari or, you never want your web browser to remember a password. If a criminal is able to get remote access to your computer, well, they'll just go to your favorites list on your web browser and just start visiting the websites you like to go to. And if you've already told your web browser to put your password in for you, they may be able to break into those accounts. Again, a manager won't do that until you put in your master password. Now, hopefully what's going through your head right now with this password manager thing is like, hey, wait a minute, just a few slides ago, this guy was talking about data breaches. What happens when a password manager has a data breach and all my passwords get leaked out? What happens then? All good password managers use something called 256-bit encryption, which is the number 2 to the 256th power, which is an astronomically large number. I've actually been told that level of encryption, it would take today's computers about 11 trillion years to break that level of encryption. That sounds pretty secure to me. So again, if it's good enough for the FBI, it's good enough for me. Even if these password managers have a data breach, the files that the criminals steal are all encrypted and there's really nothing they can do with them. So two different options for you to look into with your passwords. All right, credit report. I'm sure everybody knows that you get free access to your credit report. It used to be that you got one free report every 12 months. And just recently they changed it, at least for the online version, that you can check your online credit report every week for free. So, I mean, basically you can check your credit report almost as often as you want and it doesn't cost you anything. You should check your credit report and you should look at it and you should make sure that there's nothing on there that you don't recognize. Something on there you don't recognize, that could be fraudulent activity and you want to put a stop to it right away. So let's go back to that very first scenario that I gave you. Somebody goes to a store and they use your information to open up a credit card and they go on a shopping spree. And, now all of a sudden you're getting a phone call from a bill collector wondering why you didn't pay this, $5,000 credit card bill. And it makes no sense to you. You think it's a scam phone call because you don't even have a credit card from that business. Well, how do you tell the difference? Is that a scam phone call or is this a real bill collector? Simply check your credit report. Either that outstanding credit card is on your report or it's not. If it's not on your credit report, yeah, that's probably just a scam phone call and you were just right to, hang up on that person. But oh my goodness, what if you check your credit report and there is an outstanding credit card on your report. $5,000, exactly what that bill collector was telling you on the phone. Well, that might be a real bill collector, and this might be your first indication that you're the victim of identity theft. We can help you get this all straightened out, but you're probably going to have to file a police report, probably file with my agency. It's going to take some time and a whole bunch of paperwork, and it's a hassle, but we can probably get that stuff closed down and off your credit report and recover your identity. But how about we stop it from happening in the first place? This is the number one thing that you can do to protect yourself from financial identity theft is freeze your credit. So these three companies right here, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, you kind of see them in the ice cubes there as well. They're the folks that maintain our credit reports. And since 2018, it is now free to freeze this report. So here's what this means. Once your credit is frozen, no one can open up a new line of credit in your name. So if your credit's frozen and that criminal tries to get that store credit card, well, they'll be denied. It won't, because your credit's frozen. If they try to get an auto loan in your name, denied. A home equity line of credit, denied. All new lines of credit will be stopped. But you, as the consumer, you still have access to your credit. Let's say later this year you need to buy a car. You can lift this freeze or thaw this freeze in as little as an hour. You go to the dealership, you pick out your new car, you're talking to the finance person, you lift your freeze, you tell them, okay, yep, we're good to go, run my name and you get approved for your new auto loan. And then as soon as that transaction goes through, you can refreeze your credit to stop other people from doing bad things. Unfortunately, your social security number is probably out there. Just because somebody hasn't done something with it up till this point doesn't mean that it's not out there. It's just a matter of time before they get to it. And if your credit is frozen, it greatly cuts down on what they can do with your social security number. So in order to do this, you have to reach out to all three credit reporting agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. You can do this online or over the phone. And yes, you can do it through the mail, but honestly, nobody likes to do it through the mail because nobody likes to send a photocopy of their social security card through the mail. So I kind of recommend online or in phone or over the phone. And the credit reporting agencies, I mean, you're just a phone call to them. They're going to ask you some questions to make sure you are who you say you are, or they're going to ask you questions online in the form of multiple choice questions based on your credit report. So here's my pro tip for you is just get all three copies of your credit report and have them with you when you get ready to freeze your credit. That's where the answers are. So then when they ask you, what was the name of the bank you had that loan with in 2010? You'll be able to answer it correctly and prove that you are who you say you are. And then they'll freeze your credit. And with all three, you have to do this. All right, just got a couple slides left here for you. A lot of people ask me about identity theft protection insurance. Do I need to sign up for this? Do I need to pay for this? Like all insurance, I mean, it makes sense for some, it doesn't make sense for others. You kind of got to look at what does it cost? What's the coverage? Many types of identity theft you can recover from on your own or with the help of my agency. And, we don't charge anything. Now, if I could look into a crystal ball and I knew next year you were going to suffer some really complicated form of identity theft, sure, I probably want these folks on my side, but you kind of gotta, they really can't do anything that you can't do yourself. You can monitor the bank statements and the credit card statements and your credit report, and you can freeze your credit, or do you want to just pay somebody else to kind of do that for you? So again, that makes sense for some and not for others. So you can look into that if you want. We've recently added this slide. We got a lot of questions about home title identity theft. So you see this in the news quite a bit lately. So first of all, what this is not you going on vacation out of state and then coming home and finding somebody living in your home. That's squatting, and Wisconsin does not have squatters' rights. That would be a phone call to the police, and they will help you out with somebody who's criminally trespassing in your dwelling. What this is a form of identity theft. So one of two things can happen. The criminal can file fraudulent paperwork and try to open up a home equity line of credit against your home. Well, simply freezing your credit stops all new lines of credit. So as long as your credit's frozen, you don't have to worry about a home equity line of credit being opened up. So that protects you right there. The other thing that a criminal could do is potentially file fraudulent paperwork with the county register of deeds for wherever you own property and try to then sell that property and just collect some money at closing, quickly and before it's discovered. So every county in Wisconsin is a little bit different. Many of them have a mechanism in place now where you can set up some kind of a fraud alert or a notification that is, if paperwork is filed and it wasn't you, they'll notify you and you can put a stop to it. So whatever counties that you own property in, I suggest reach out to those county register of deeds and see what they have of how you can protect your home or your property from somebody filing fraudulent paperwork. And like I said, everyone's a little bit different. Lastly, I hope none of this stuff happens to you, but if it happens, if credit cards are showing up in the mail and bill collectors are calling, and next January you're getting W-2s mailed to the house, and for jobs you've never even heard of, and if that type of stuff is happening, you're not alone. Reach out to us, and we'll help you recover from all of this. So you'll have to file a complaint with us, file a police report, and then we'll help you clean all of this up. But that's what we're here for. And hopefully we don't hear from you. Hopefully we don't you don't have to use our services, but we're here if you need it. And then I'm just going to pop this up on the screen. These are some other presentations that we offer. Today was identity theft and privacy protection right there in the middle of the screen. A nice follow-up to today's presentation is the common scams and fraud. Safe online shopping towards the top. That's been pretty popular with us. And down toward the bottom, some of the more technical business regulation presentations that we offer. And so I'll just leave that on the screen there with the links to our social media accounts, and we can open it up for any questions.
I just want to share an experience that I had probably 6 months ago. Somebody from Texas purchased something from my Amazon account using my Chase credit card, which is Amazon's credit card. Somehow or other, their address was included in with my addresses that I have Amazon deliveries to. Not sure how they did that, but they charged $500 worth of things on my Chase card. Had their Texas address on it. Fortunately, I was able to contact Amazon and Chase, and they reimbursed me for that $500. I had that package diverted from that. I think it was coming UPS or FedEx, something like that. I contacted whatever delivery company was delivering this, and I stopped that package from going to their address. I made it so that it stayed at the FedEx office, so that if somebody were to go in, they'd have to show identification. Um, it was, the name was under my name still, this package being delivered to Texas. So if those people somehow did receive this package, they'd have to show identification, which they didn't have my driver's license. So, and I followed the trail of that package, once it was kept at the FedEx department, at which point I got an email saying that, you know, basically your package has been sitting here too long. We're sending it back to the sender. So yeah, I did that on my own. But it was a wake-up call.
Yeah, that's scary stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. My two best guesses would be somehow somebody figured out your Amazon username and password and logged into your actual account. And many times, we keep our payment card information stored right in, those types of online shopping places to make it easy to buy stuff. Nobody likes to type in their credit card number every time they want to buy something. And they might have been able to make a purchase and then they just added an address of where they wanted it shipped to, and they were just hoping that you wouldn't see it.
Well,
Um, or somebody had like remote access to your computer and you happen to be signed into Amazon on the computer screen, and same thing, and then they were able to make the purchase through your actual account.
here's the really weird thing is that it didn't show up on my purchases on my Amazon account.
Oh,
So,
it wasn't in there on your order history?
no,
So it was just a purchase through the Chase card?
nope, it was definitely an Amazon purchase.
But through a different account.
No, I don't know how these people did what they did. Was very confusing to me. The only reason I knew about this is I check my credit cards almost on a daily or every other day
Sure.
to make sure that there's no charges on there that I don't recognize. And I was just shocked when I checked my Chase credit card that day and saw that this purchase had happened, but it didn't show up on my Amazon purchases.
Yeah,
These
interesting.
people's address did.
But that's the right thing to do, is just contact the credit card company right away and dispute that charge. And
Yeah,
I'm glad it sounds like you were not held financially responsible for anything.
I was not.
Good.
So,
Excellent.
pretty scary though.
It is scary, and like you said, it can be a wake-up call when this happens, and all of a sudden you kind of realize, like, oh, this can actually really happen. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Patrick. My question is about using Wi-Fi in public. You talked about unsecured Wi-Fi's and things like that. What if you open a private screen or privacy screen? Would that help?
Like incognito.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know so much about the private screens or the private web browsing, but if you have access to a VPN, that stands for virtual private network, that will protect you on an open network, but generally you have to pay for VPN service. So, if you already, let's say you might already pay for like a suite of antivirus software for your computer. Like some of the big companies are like McAfee or Norton 360 that I'm sure you've heard of. Sometimes they include a VPN in their suite of software that you might already pay for. If you have access to something like that, a VPN is not a bad option. But to just go out and just pay for a VPN, I don't know if that's worth it for most people. It depends on how often, I guess, you find yourself on open networks that you need protection. I don't think a private web browsing, all that's going to do, I believe, is just hide your search history. I don't think it really encrypts.
Can hear you.
Oh, did you lose me?
Oops, what happened?
Can you still hear me? Uh-oh.
Fine.
No? Hello?
We had a
No, I can hear.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, it might be something with maybe it looks like they might be frozen right now.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Okay,
But yeah, private web browsing, I think that will just hide your search history. I don't think it actually encrypts what you're sending back and forth.
I have a question as well.
Sure.
So you had mentioned a password manager and not to use any of Chrome or Firefox or things like that. Is there one that you would recommend or a couple that you would recommend?
So there's not. I mean, I work for the state, so I got to be
Mm-hmm.
careful. I can't recommend one over the other, but very likely, depending on what type of phone you have. I mean, there's uh, you might already have a password manager built into your phone, or just like whenever a consumer is going to make a purchase or download an app, I would just do the research. You'll see though there's 2 or 3 different password managers out there that have been downloaded millions of times, and they have 4 and 5 star reviews, and many of them are free. If it's like just
Okay,
you and you want to use it just on one device like a phone, often it's free.
okay,
If it's like let's picture like maybe a husband and a wife, and they both want to have access to the manager, and they're both going to use it on a phone, and then they have a shared laptop.
yeah,
Sometimes some of that cross compatibility there'll be a little bit of a charge for, but
okay,
um, you know, many of them are just free as well. So you can look and see what's worth it for you.
okay. That's good to know. That's good to know that they can kind of work through different devices too, the same account like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Patrick, we lost you earlier. I don't know if you heard my answer about, I believe just, private web browsing would just hide your search history, but I don't think it actually encrypts what you're sending back and forth. So I think, I don't think I would be comfortable online shopping or doing online banking on an open network with just a private web browser. I would want a VPN, or to make sure I'm on a private, secure Wi-Fi.
How about using your data to do something like that?
Yeah, that's secure. Yep. So turn the Wi-Fi off on your phone or device and use that 4 or 5G connection. That's actually that's your data connection. That's actually more secure than Wi-Fi.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
What do you think about things like secure folders or like they call them vaults? You can put things in like copies of your driver's license and things like that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean they keep documents safe on our computer. So if you're worried about somebody else having access to your computer, or somebody else having remote access to your computer, they wouldn't be able to open up those types of folders without also knowing the password. So it's an extra level of security.
Thank you.
Yes.
How do you set something like that up?
Um, Good question. I know I have one on my phone, but it's just built into my phone. I don't really use one on a laptop. But you can I would imagine a quick internet search, and you can look at how to set up secure folders.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Any other questions from the group? There is my information. Rebecca, did I already send you some handouts for everybody, or not yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, I'll send you an email with some PDF copies for
Okay.
everybody, or just on the lower right corner here, this datcp.wi.gov. That's our website.
Okay,
And there's all kinds of what we call fact sheets on our website, where you can get information about identity theft and a whole variety of other topics.
okay. I'll send that to everyone with a copy of this recording. To refer back to.
Wonderful.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you. I was just going to ask that.
Yep. I'll get that out. And then we will have on July 22nd another webinar with Jeff about common scams and fraud. So we'll see him again if you guys are interested. July 22nd at 1 p.m. And I was also looking at that online shopping one. I think that would be really helpful for a lot of people. I'm sure.
Wonderful.
So we can get that set up.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, maybe as we get closer to like holiday shopping time.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be perfect. We see a lot in the credit union. We see a lot of fraud around the holidays with online shopping.
Is that what you said? Common thread in online shopping theft or something like that for July 22nd?
So July 22nd, we have common scams and fraud.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then we'll look into putting on the safe online shopping seminar he also offers
Okay. Sounds great.
a little bit later in the year. And if there's any others that you guys see that are interested, we can try setting that up with him as well. The other ones that you saw on that list.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I wanted to take a picture of that last screen, that contact information
Oh,
screen.
sure.
Yeah, let me
Oh, yeah, hold on just a second. I already closed it. Well,
Let me see here. I can.
yeah, the last screen that was just up.
Oh, there you go.
Oh no, not this one.
Yeah.
The one before it.
Oh, this one.
Yes. Can you enlarge it, please? Thank you. Let's take a picture of it. All right. Thank you. Got it.
Yeah. Very wonderful. Well,
all right. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Welcome.
so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone.